Welcome to Everyday Martial Artist, a weekly podcast where you'll join me, Brian Doucette, as I interview a different martial artist each episode and hear their story. Some guests you may have heard of, and some you probably haven't. Be sure to subscribe where all your favorite podcasts are available. Also visit our website at everydaymartialartist.com. If you're listening for a specific interview, I sure hope you'll stay and check out the other episodes. A very special thank you to Topher Williams for our custom theme music. And now, the newest episode of Everyday Martial Artist. Everyday Martial Artist is brought to you by KOOnline.com for all your martial arts needs. Sparring and safety gear, rank belts, uniforms, weapons, patches, and more. Wholesale supplies made by martial artists for martial artists. Visit us today at ko-online.com. You know, one question I ask every guest on Everyday Martial Artist is about their favorite martial arts book. And there's never been one quite like Martial Theory by Steve Pearlman, described as the art of war for the martial arts. Martial Theory helps any martial artist or instructor take their understanding and teaching to the next level. And at martialtheoryU.com, you'll find a global community with instructor groups, Q&A with Steve, live events, and demonstrations to help you apply martial theory directly to your training. It's not just a book, it's a movement. Find Martial Theory on Amazon, and when you join martialtheoryU.com, use discount code EverydayMA for 20% off. That's under $20 a month for life. That's martialtheoryU.com, code EverydayMA. Hello and welcome to Everyday Martial Artist. I'm your host, Brian Doucette, and as we do every week, we're joined by a brand new guest talking about their life and their journey throughout the world of martial arts. My guest today is a true pioneer of mixed martial arts, a world-class wrestler, and one of the most recognizable figures in combat sports history. Long before MMA became a global phenomenon, he was helping to define what the sport would become. Making his UFC debut in 1994, he quickly established himself as one of the most dominant competitors of the era, earning the nickname The Beast and becoming the only Triple Crown champion in UFC history, capturing multiple tournament titles and the prestigious UFC Superfight Championship. Before stepping into the Octagon, he built an extraordinary amateur wrestling career, a two-time national champion in high school, an Arizona State University Wrestling's Hall of Fame inductee, and a 1984 U.S. Olympic alternate, a 13-time National AAU Wrestling Champion. His accomplishments on the mat are almost unmatched. His pursuit of excellence took him around the world, competing and winning championships across Europe, Asia, and the Americas. Not content to excel in just one arena, he later became a major force in professional wrestling, holding the historic NWA World Heavyweight Championship and competing for organizations around the globe. Along the way, he's promoted events, trained athletes, educated law enforcement professionals, mentored future champions, and helped shape the growth of modern mixed martial arts. More than 3 decades after first entering the spotlight, he remains an ambassador for combat sports and a powerful example of discipline, perseverance, and lifelong learning. Please welcome to the show UFC Hall of Famer, wrestling champion, coach, promoter, and one of the true legends of the fight game, Dan the Beast Severn. How you doing today, Dan?
Well, I've got my second cup of go-go juice in me. I'm revved up and ready to go, Brian.
That's good. There's sometimes I wish I still drank caffeine. I gave up caffeine in February 99, a few months before my son was born. I don't think I've ever told this story on the air, but I used to work for Pepsi back in the day, and we got employee discounts, and I used to drink about 48 bottles of Mountain Dew a week.
No way.
Yeah, because I got them for like 20 cents a bottle back in like 1998, and I just in February 99, I'm like, man, this shit's not good for me, and I quit cold turkey. I had a migraine headache for 5 days and never looked back. So
yeah. No. Again, it's kind of, as you say that. Look how our government has the food pyramid that we grew up with has now been turned upside down.
True.
What was all bad for you is now good for you. What was good for you is now bad for you. So I'm making, oh my God, would someone make up their mind? But it actually leads to is like, how much do we trust our government anymore?
That is true.
I mean, I've been wondering that for a number of years, but
very true. Well, in the intro, like I said, I mentioned, lifelong wrestler, lifelong competitor. And first of all, I know you started wrestling at a young age. What I want to know is, was that your first experience with any type of martial art or combat art? Did you ever dabble in like a taekwondo or a shotokan or judo or anything before that? And if not, just how did wrestling start for you, or what was your first experience with any type of martial art like that?
Well, I'll answer it in a couple of different ways. I mean, my entry level was that how I ever got involved in amateur wrestling was in 7th grade.
Okay.
At first, I started being out on the basketball team.
Nice.
But I did not have the ability to actually dribble a ball, look away, and to actually still have the ball underneath the palm of my hand.
Okay.
So, as the cliche goes, I was riding the pine, and that sitting on the bench, and I did not care for this riding the pine. There was a big flu epidemic that hit our school, and a lot of people were absent. and I had some fellow classmates that were on the wrestling team. They had a dual meet that was going to be taking place that night. They're like, Dan, could you come in and fill a weight class or two, because we don't have it. They're all sick. I'm thinking myself, I'm a young, strong farm kid. I go, oh, heck yeah, I'll go out there and I'll show them a thing or two about wrestling. I went out wrestled twice. I lost both matches, and I go, I felt like a big failure. But as I tell people that at least I'm doing something. And so I went out for the wrestling team. So I started wrestling in 7th grade, and then just kept learning more and more and adding to my arsenal over the years.
That's great. I mean, most people I talk to that lifelong wrestlers started in like 4 years old or 5 years old. That's crazy. You didn't start till 7th grade, and the success you had. And also crazy that your first ever wrestling meet, you had no experience whatsoever. That's kind of scary.
Well, as we continue in this interview, you're going to find out how many different things that I walked in with no experience.
That is true. I get that. I know some of your stories. So yeah, definitely. That makes sense knowing you. That's kind of cool. But so you did that. You obviously, you said you lost, you did not do well, but you were still had the drive to try it. Once you decided to try out for it, what was it? What was it that made you stick with it and be like, all right, this is for me. I'm going for it.
I mean, looking back now, what I truly enjoy about the sport of wrestling, it's an independent sport. It really is. I mean, it's the definition is a team sport, but it's all based upon individual performances. The team can lose, and I can still go on. So, I mean, Brian, I love football more than anything, because every 30 seconds, crash, bang, boom, and I loved it.
Okay.
And when especially I played all through high school, and I actually had a number of college offers to go play college ball. But what disenchanted me was the fact that you had to rely upon 10 other people to do their job as well. And if someone missed a block or someone missed a tackle, you lose, even though you did everything humanly possible. And I was really so good by my junior and senior year. I mean, I never played I never played freshman football. I went right to sophomore, and then only played, I think, a little bit of sophomore football before they pulled me right to varsity.
Wow.
Yeah, and so it's like, I was a big farm kid. There was actually only one other person. His name was Richard Dowd and myself that did this, and he was probably the fastest white boy I have ever seen. And he was a big guy, a big, full-size guy, and he could run fast. But I love football. I never left the field. I was on offense. I was on defense, any specialty type of team. And by my junior, senior year, the coach basically just called me over. He says, Severn, he says, whatever you see, pull that person up, throw them back into your spot, and you take over their spot. So I'd run over to I'd be a defensive end. I'd go up there and be a nose guard. I'd go over to a defensive tackle. Because just I could see what was start to materialize. Wow. But again, as I said early on, I chose the sport of wrestling because now I am in control of my destiny. I don't have to worry about what the other 10 players are doing. All I got to do is worry about what am I doing. And again, that's the way I look at life. Everyone else is trying to, woe is me. Well, no. There is no woe is me. Get me out of bed a little bit earlier. Get me getting going. Get me to have some goals and some aspirations. And I go, the world, there are so many opportunities, especially now, with the internet, the way that it is, the opportunities that people have. I say, get at least one job. You may not like that job, but at least you got some income coming in as you work on the next gig that will hopefully take you into a whole different arena that you're really looking to do. But don't look down upon washing dishes or taking out the garbage or whatever it is. I've done all of those things.
Nice. So then, like we mentioned, your first competition, no training. So then once you made the team, how long was it before you competed again? And did that one go better the second time?
Oh, well, I mean, sure. As time progressed on, I got better and better because I get more drilling in that. And it was, I say, like in high school, it was like a whole different atmosphere because now I have a different coach. I have a high school wrestling coach. And it was kind of unique because between the phys ed coach was also the head football coach.
Okay.
And the wrestling coach was a history teacher. And so during football season, the wrestling coach, the history teacher, was the assistant football coach. And then when wrestling season came on, the wrestling coach was the head coach, and the football coach was his assistant. So they worked really well hand in hand because, well, the football coach knew that wrestlers make great tacklers. They're aggressive by nature, and he was always trying to recruit wrestlers. And again, it doesn't matter if the wrestler only weighs 150 pounds. He'll throw that wrestler up against another big old lineman, knowing that, well, he's going to at least plug that hole up so no one's going to be running through it. So, and that is even still true to this day, because a lot of NFL players, when a coach finds out that they have a wrestling background, they want them that much more.
I know. I never wrestled. A lot of friends that did. I used to watch it. My sister was a wrestling cheerleader. I had cousins that wrestled. But I know that just because I was a big guy and I had a martial arts background, the wrestling coach tried to recruit me a few times. And at that time in my life, I didn't have the interest. The ground game didn't interest me and stuff. And sometimes I wish I maybe would have given it a shot. But yeah, I remember a few times they tried to get me out there, kind of like they did with you. I think if they would have tried when I was younger, because they didn't try until I was a sophomore or junior in high school. If they would have tried when I was maybe in seventh grade, maybe I would have given it a shot. But yeah,
I'll
that's
simply
cool.
say that my freshman year, I first started off, I was on the JV squad, and the JV squad, oh my God, what embarrassing uniforms. It literally, you wore like this thing that was like a leotard.
Okay.
And then you put on this, what again looks like the top half of a singlet, but it also goes through your crotch, and you got like 5 buttons you have to button. And then you put on a pair of trunks over this. Now, when you finally are fully assembled, you kind of just look like, well, you're wearing a pair of long johns, but you got on this pair of black trunks. But if you get the pre-match jitters and you have to go do a little tinkle, you run into the restroom, and okay, you're pulling the trunks down, you got 5 buttons to undo, you got to unhook this and that. And I'm like, oh my God, you talk about, it was nerve-wracking to try to make sure you put yourself all back together, then get back out there for the match again. So there's the sport of wrestling has evolved even in uniform to where now they just wear a singlet, and it just pulls down, pulls up, and you're good to go.
Nice. So at what point in your high school career did you start realizing it was a possibility that you were going to do this? Because you said you loved football, you had offers. What was kind of the turning point for you where you decided to turn that focus to wrestling instead of football?
Even as my sophomore year, I started having more success.
Okay.
And, there were some dual meets that we lost. There's other dual meets we won. But then also being involved in the sport of football is like going the same thing. But I looked at that probably by my sophomore year, because I had one older brother, my brother Dave. And for whatever reason, some college coaches thought that we were a set of twins.
Oh, okay.
Even though he was a weight class underneath me, I was just a little bit heavier and a little bit thicker than what he was. So for whatever reason, they thought we were a set of twins. And so coaches were looking for this 2-for-1 package. Well, when they found out basically I was a year younger, it's like, oh my God, we can get the older one first and then get the younger one a year later. So they were looking at that kind of like package deals. Mm-hmm. Now, it was intriguing because, this was the era that, okay, everyone is looking at how they're going to go to college.
Yeah.
But the bad part that'll beat up is that most students go and they take up all these student loans. Mm-hmm. And these student loans are going to hang over their head for the next 30 or more years of their life.
Yes.
And I kept thinking, how do I go to college without any kind of debt? And then I hear about this, well, there's a possibility of an athletic scholarship. I'm thinking, let's find out a little bit more about this athletic scholarship. And they're like, well, if you become more notable and more colleges want. So it's like, how do I bring attention to myself? And I simply knew that I wasn't going to be able to do that on the football squad, even though I love football. Mm-hmm. But it's like, in wrestling, the definition is a team sport based upon individual performances. The team can lose and I can still move on. So I chose the sport of amateur wrestling to make my mark because I stake my own claim. It's my work ethic in that. And the football coach and the wrestling coach, they were talking with each other because the football coaches see how I was lifting more. We didn't have an actual weight room at the time. Mm-hmm. Our school has it now, but they had an old universal square box machine, with 4 different sides and 4 different things. But there's I'll say maybe a dozen or more exercises that you could do. So I basically, my whole goal was, can I work myself up to where I'm doing the stack on everything? And I did. Okay. So I stock off for being a weenie freshman to where it's like, okay, now I'm doing the stack on everything. And so, but then I started thinking in terms of wrestling mechanics and doing a double. What are the muscles I will be doing? So I'm doing like lat pull down, seated pulls, because these are singles, these are doubles, and and you want strong legs for driving. So now I'm doing the leg press and the leg curls and leg extensions, and so I just incorporated all those kinds of things. Right, even like now, here I'm 67 years of age. What I do, I went to the gym this morning.
Mm-hmm.
I'm at a hotel. I'm here for a martial arts conference, and yet I have this saying about rise and shine.
Yep.
And as I go in, what does that mean? Well, it means I want to do something. No one is going to get out of the game of life alive, but I want to try to milk it for all it's worth.
Nice.
And I simply know that if I don't invest a little bit of time into me, we're all going to start falling apart. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of people that these old football injuries or wrestling injuries or something that you tweaked here they'll come back to remind you somewhere down the road. Remember this back in whatever. Yeah. Well, here it is again. So it's like, I always look at that. I'm going to invest some time in myself. And usually that's how I like to start my morning. My alarm goes off and it's like going, okay, get up and start moving.
I like that. And me too. Most days, depending what time I get to sleep with my podcast, most days I'm up at 4:30 to go to the gym before my day starts and before I go to work. So I get that mentality. That's the best time to work out. It makes your whole day go better.
Well, you definitely shouldn't have too many people fighting you at 4:30 now. Mine, like I said, I'm trying to roll out somewhere around that 6 to 6:30 type time frame, knowing that I'm still working before 8 o'clock ever hits. I don't do a long grind anymore. I go in for very specific reasons. And there's a lot of times that even if there's not a gym, I'm at a hotel right now, but they always say, well, there's a floor right there. Mm-hmm. I can sit ups, push ups, I can do jumpy jacks, I can do side bends, torso twists. There's a big difference between men and women. Mm-hmm. For example, like women, they got to do their hair. They got to look at, do they have a cute outfit? They got to look at all this kind of stuff right there. Where a guy, he'll find like some dirty garment that's all wrinkled up in the corner, and they'll pick it up and they'll smell it. And like, oh, no, I can't. Now grab something, okay, now sniff that one. Like, okay, this will work for one more workout.
Yep.
There's just a big difference. They're not going to comb their hair or anything because they don't care. I don't care when I go to the gym. I'm at least there. And usually if it's early enough, no one else is going to be in there in the first place.
Nice. I love it. So then for college, you chose Arizona State University. And I also read that you first started getting involved in judo while you were in college. So how did that come about? Did someone recommend it? Did you stumble upon it?
No, Brian, my very first semester at Arizona State, if you were to look at all the classes that I took, mm-hmm. there was no graduation in Dan Severn's future.
Okay.
I know why I went to college in the first place. I was being recruited because I'm a good athlete in a sport of wrestling. That's mm-hmm. what now I go, how do I keep this continuing on? So I took like a weightlifting class, knowing I want to learn from someone who's way more experienced than what I am as to how to actually set up a program for me and the sport of wrestling. Now, the gentleman was one of the football coaching staff, and it was all basically designed towards football. I simply just recalibrated again for like I did in high school. Okay, what are all the movements for wrestling? And so I just did it there. But I had a lot more much nicer equipment, a lot more equipment of it. So I enjoyed it. I took a nutrition class.
Nice.
Again, to learn everything that I'm putting in my body is going to make me the ultimate wrestler. I took a judo class simply to learn to use my legs like an extra pair of arms. And it all worked. I had, my last 2 years of high school, went in a couple back-to-back state championships, going undefeated, going 100-0.
Wow.
Think about that. 100-0 in your last 2 years. In my junior year, I pinned everybody but one person. So, and I'm a person that I have lived out of a planner since probably, I think probably my freshman or sophomore year in high school. Mm-hmm. Now, it was a lot more simple because all I was looking for, what wrestling camps and clinics was I going to go into to attend. Now I put everything in there because it helps me keep on pace of all the stuff that I've got going. But it helped work out. So like I said earlier, in my junior year, I went through my entire season. I ended up winning the state championship, and I pinned everybody but one person. So I like to always up the ante on my goals. I go, so my goal for my senior year is what? I must pin everyone.
Wow.
And I go through my regular season, pin everyone, districts, regionals. Here I'm at states. And I'm walking into my final match. And in my mind, I had pinned my opponent in the finals in little over a minute. So in my mind, my goal is I must win. I must pin. I must do it all under 1 minute. Most people want to go to states. Most people want to play. Most would be happy with a victory, but no, that was the three things. My opponent did not know the tsunami that was about to hit him. And basically about 50 some seconds later, I walked back off the mat. I achieved my goal.
Wow.
I had it set. I had every collegiate wrestling program worth their weight in salt was pursuing me for what I did. And I think I set like 8 different national records, which was a record in itself because no one individual had held so many different records. But it's like pins in 1 season, 2 seasons, 3 seasons, 4 seasons, and then most consecutive pins. There's like pin, and whatever else I have right there. But, a lot of those records have gone bye-bye now because there's some other really great wrestlers that have come along that they have actually even more matches and more victories.
That's crazy. Wow.
But you also have a lot more wrestlers that have invaded mixed martial arts.
That is true.
Because there's a lot of companies that they're starting to find out, like going, what is it about these wrestlers? Well, you're already used to imposing your will upon another individual, of which in mixed martial arts, that's what you're going to do there. Except the fact that, well, again, you have to look at, are we speaking modern day mixed martial arts? Or are we speaking back to the NHB no holds barred era of no holds barred? So again, there's a big transition between those two, but still the wrestlers, when you look at all the different current champions, you'll be shocked as to how many of them have this amateur wrestling foundation.
Yep.
So I'm proud to be really the very first amateur wrestler that opened the door for all these other amateur wrestlers that now invade that industry.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. So then through college, you 2-time All-American at college and stuff. You were doing, like I said, still doing judo. I know you got involved in some sambo when you were there.
Yep.
Kind of what was the path after college? I mean, because obviously like the UFC and stuff was still years down the road, a little ways down the road. After college, what was kind of the goal?
One of the big recruiting tools, because of being at college, when I even came in on my recruiting trip, ended up meeting a supporter of the program and a businessman by the name of Art Martori. And I made it quite well known that I wanted the best of both worlds. College wrestling was never going to get me to the pinnacle of wrestling. Was I wanted to go to the Olympics.
Okay.
I wanted to wrestle in the Olympic Games. I wanted to win the gold medal. So I let it be well known that I'm going to go to a college program that has the best of both worlds. It's got a good collegiate program, but I'm looking for the dangling carrot after that. I want to know that I'm going to be involved in freestyle and Greco-Roman, which again, they're totally different than college wrestling, because college wrestling, there is this thing called riding time where they got them down on the mat and they're still trying to break them down and turning pin, which takes a strong mindset to do that. But freestyle Greco, you're going to see a whole lot more throws, big throws, and what they call back exposure, where you simply just roll the guy through across the back and you pick up a couple points. And there's even the UFC has their new version that was called American Freestyle.
Yeah.
They've got that's hosting it toward, it's the first time ever that you got wrestlers that are actually making money for the sport of wrestling. Before, like an individual like me, you had to either go into a wacky world of professional wrestling, or I had to go into, the opportunities for the cage fight and stuff like that did not emerge until I think the very first UFC show was around, December of 1993 was the very first UFC. But again, the internet was not as massive as
very
it is
different
today. Yeah. So it never heard about it. So, I mean, now you're going back to the eras of, I used to go over to the local Blockbuster Video and pick up the 8-track videotapes and used to watch it. Like, and the younger people are going, what? An 8-track? What is this? What is this device they're talking about? They must be old.
That is true. Old and proud.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well.
So then you actually did go for it for the Olympics, and I know it didn't end up turning out the way you wanted, but I thought did I read somewhere in another interview that you said if everything would have went how you planned in 1984, you would have retired from competition?
Oh yeah, no, you're exactly right. Because I've been a guy that has set goals for himself. So like
Mm-hmm.
going, if I would have reached the pinnacle of the peak of my amateur wrestling career, well then that would have been done. And it's like, well, I didn't think you could play sports forever. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like going, well, I just thought, okay, I've reached my pinnacle, my peak. I would have been a shop teacher because that is actually my background. I actually have a teaching degree
Okay.
from Arizona State University, and it is for the shop. But I always tell people that because I always hold up my hands. I go, and I'm a shop teacher that still has all of their appendages. You usually have that shop teacher that has missing part of a digit or two, and they're like, "Be careful for that from that table saw or that radial arm saw. It'll
Yep.
get you every time." And
Yeah.
again, but I say that kiddily there, but I literally at one point in time I watched a guy cut off the tip of his thumb, and I couldn't get out the word stop, or I couldn't get over to him quick enough because I saw it the way it is about to happen, and he ended up going.
My high school shop teacher cut off the tip of one of his fingers while he was giving his safety lesson on the bandsaw.
Wow.
So yeah, I get that.
Yeah. Well, again, I always tell people there's a reason why they have these safety guards and all that kind of stuff there. You don't want that. You want to minimize your exposure to danger as much as you possibly can, but you can't prevent it all. So.
Mm-hmm. So then with the Olympics and making you were an alternate on the Olympic team. So
yes.
Not making it, that's what drove you to keep going because you did not make it. So you decided to keep going, keep competing. Oh. Thankful for that because the career you've had since then, even better, probably.
Well, again, I always tell people you'd be surprised what hate does.
True.
I mean, I was a very angry person at that point in time. And that's where, well, I kind of feel sorry for a lot of my opponents because I made a very big exclamation mark on my career from that point on towards I talked about earlier. Mm-hmm. I was a strong pinner. And the reason why I like to pin, because if you and I are out on the mat and I just eke out a victory, by a point or two, in your mind, you're going to think, oh, all I got to do is go back and work on my cardiovascular a little bit more. All I got to do is simply work on, these couple techniques here a little bit more, learn how to escape, and I'll come back and I'll beat the guy. Mm-hmm. But when someone physically mauls you and then against your will puts you on your back and pins you, you have stolen their soul to the point that the next time that you encounter each other, in the back of your mind, you'll be thinking, oh my God, is he going to pin me again? I started having this reputation of being a vicious pinner. Again, not that being mean, but I'm going to pin you. And I went to where I started. I could go one of usually three weight classes, 198, 220, or heavyweight, because I weighed light enough. But I always look for which weight class had more people in it, because I want more matches. Okay. The more matches I get, I'm going to get more pins. I want to win not only my weight class, win that medal or that trophy, but I also want to win the most pins award and the outstanding wrestler award because I was a hardware collector. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to walk away with as much hardware as I possibly could. And I ended up going to a national tournament once. Again, it could have been a state. It might have been just a state tournament. Mm-hmm. And there were like 7 other people. I was number 8. So even numbers. I should be able to pick up at least 3, maybe 4 matches if everything goes right here. And I even asked the pairing people that set up the chart. I go, can you throw me all the way to the top? Because if you're in the bottom, if there's going to be a bye, it always goes to the bottom person, then starts to work way up. I go, I don't want any buys. I want all matches. And then I go back up to my hotel room because it's going to take them a couple hours to finish up doing all the weight classes, the pairing, stuff like that. And I come back down. I've got my duffel bag. I've got my red singlet. I got my blue singlet. So I'm heading over to the wall chart to simply find out who am I wrestling first and what color is my singlet. So as I go to the wall chart, all 7 other men withdrew. I won the tournament and never stepped on the mat.
Wow.
So again, that's where reputation preceded itself.
Yeah, they didn't want to get pinned by you.
Well, yeah. No, again, I don't just say that to be mean or something like that, but it's like going, as I say before, that mat represented that this is my property and you have just trespassed. I will do everything within my power to get you off of my piece of real estate. And it's going to be probably through a vicious pin. Mm-hmm. Wow. And again, I learned more of my viciousness really in international competition. Inside the United States, it's nice. Mm-hmm. It's competition. But when you go to a foreign country and you have a foreign referee, I'd be in Turkey or something like that, and my guy is like bite me or something like that, and I'm like, referee's biting me. And the referee just looks away.
Wow.
He's like, I see nothing. You got the Colonel Klink. I see nothing. Or no, sorry, that's Sergeant Schultz. Okay,
yeah. Yep.
Your listeners not going to know who I'm talking about here. Hogan's Heroes, but they may have to do their own research.
Yeah, definitely. First of all, when the UFC first hit you, you competed first in '94. The UFC started in '93.
Yes.
Were you aware of it when it started? Did you watch it? And how did it come? Did they contact you?
No, the internet did not exist whatsoever. Someone had brought it to my attention. They was like, look at this thing. I think you should compete in this. I'm watching this. And again, it was no holds barred.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking to myself, if someone's going to try to kick or punch me, they have to be within either arm's reach or legs range. I go, can I stay outside far enough, or can I create an angle, knowing that most fighters, they take a stance? And I know if they take a stance, the trail leg and the trail arm are the power punches. The lead leg and usually the lead hand, that's the setup. It's almost like the same thing in amateur. So I was trying to put to some of these amateur wrestling analogies to the fight world. And, well, what do I have to lose? I'll give it a try. But I did not tell a single family member. None of my parents, brothers, sisters. I was married. I didn't tell my wife. I just, my very first tough band contest I went to, I didn't tell anyone there. I just like, well, honey, I'll be back in a couple of days.
Wow. That's kind of crazy.
The comical story is I have a number of other uncles and one of my uncles happened to be watching me at my first UFC, and he calls over to my parents' home.
Oh.
And my father, his name is Marvin. He went by Marv, who never answers the phone on this particular day. And my uncle's like, Marv, do you know where your boy's at? And first off, my dad says, well, which one? Because I got 4 other brothers, so there's 5 of us. And my uncle's like, well, Danny. And he's like, well, my dad's like, wasn't he down in cold water? And my uncle's like, no, he's about to climb this cage and to do this. And my dad's like, what the hell? And after each match, my uncle calls back, well, he won, he's okay. Well, he lost, he's okay. I get home. Brian, and I have this message, call your father. Now, for whatever reason, that was like, that usually doesn't mean it's going to be a good phone call when you have that call your father type of message.
Oh, yeah.
And here I am, 37 years of age, and my father is bitching me out for making him nervous. And I kept thinking, well, I look upon that as a term of endearment. He wanted to make sure this little boy was going to be okay. That's all.
That's awesome. I've never heard that story before. That's awesome. Wow. I mean, it's like, I have friends that have done similar stuff. Like, I've talked, I used to judge MMA fights, back in the day. And I do friends, I talked to some fighters and like, oh, why isn't your wife here? She doesn't know I'm doing this. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
I couldn't imagine. I mean, my wife would kill me.
Yeah, well, you think you're put in the MMA match was tough. Wait till you get back home, yeah.
That's right. Yeah, no, yeah, I can handle this. I'm not going to handle my wife. Like, geez, that's awesome. Wow. So for that very first UFC that you did they approach you, or did you seek it out and be like, I want to do this?
There was a lady by the name of Phyllis Lee. She's long gone, but I had already started pursuing my professional wrestling career over in Lima, Ohio, with Al Snow, aka Al Sarvin. He's a guy that that had like the mannequin's head and that. I mean, really nice guy. He's still alive. He's still associated with professional wrestling. He's actually still associated with a organization that's linked to the WWF that they help to develop future stars. So that's where I did my first training was for 5 days, an hour and a half a day. I went over to his place. He had a professional wrestling ring. It was the closest thing I could come to a cage. And I had Al and 2 other professional wrestling training wannabes. And we just went out there, and they would have on like a pair of boxing gloves, and I just kind of like parried and would get the clinches and takedowns. And all I did was, as I took them down, I would slap on an amateur wrestling move, turn it a little bit illegal, and again, being nice, but slowly applying pressure into where let go. I mean, so it's like that was my training camp. It was literally, if anyone, I wish there was footage of that training camp, because it was probably the most hysterical and funny, because you got guys that are wearing their professional wrestling gear of who knows what type of character they were, and they're out there in this ring, but we're doing something totally different. So
Okay.
it was pure comedy.
Yeah.
That's all I'll say. My training camp was pure comedy, and because I would even tell people that my first professional wrestling show ever was something that Severn had set up for me. And it was a prison yard show of all things. So literally, you're inside of a prison. You're doing this match, and here he had been teaching me all the psychology that you're going to be the baby face. They're going to get the cheers and stuff like that, and the heels are going to get booed. And I'm wrestling Al. He's underneath a hood, so he's like this evil shinobi. And during the whole match, they're cheering the evil bad guy, and they're booing the good guy. And as I'm tying up to Al, and he's the one that can hear me, I go, Al, all that stuff you taught me, I go, it's a crock of shit. I go, it's not working in here. And he's like, Dad, he goes, we're in a prison show. Of course it's not going to work here. They love heels. They're all heels themselves.
Wow. That's awesome. And
Yeah.
I know, and like I said, you fought in the UFC, and you like UFC 4. That was the last one before they added the time limits. So you got in right when it was just starting. They were making all these changes, adding new rules and stuff. So I'm just curious, in your opinion, just as a competitor, as a fan of the sport, did you enjoy it more before they made all the changes or after?
Well, again, first off, I mean, my guarantee was $1,000.
Wow.
Okay, so just to walk in there and you have to sign a contract, and it states right in kind of fine print, but you still see it. In the event of your accidental death, the two things they can't do is bite and eye gouge. I'm thinking you could easily take someone else's life without ever violating those two rules. But even then, people violated those two rules. I used to always comically say that it wasn't the sharpest of the sharp. There would be a couple of Neanderthals out there, and they have a little string tied on one finger and another string tied on another finger, and they're like, let's see, rule number 1, okay, no poke finger in eye, and like, what is rule number 2? I can't bite my opponent. Okay, all right, remember the rules, because I always say that you must be crazy to be doing something like this, and that's one of the reasons why I didn't tell anyone what I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
I did not want. First, I didn't want my family to worry about me. I'm a big boy. I simply heard, okay, all I got to do is simply say, I quit. Tell the referee, pull him off me. I want to get out of here or something. So I thought, okay, there is at least one escape clause. I might have a shiner or whatever like that of the process, but won't be the first time that's ever happened.
Yeah. So I know in 99, you started your own promotion group. You started promoting fights that you also fought on the cards. You were promoting other fighters. What kind of drew you to that? Was it just, did you want to see more local and regional events going on?
Well, as I said, when I bought the original property because of all the promises I had of a job. So I continue to, you got to realize, professional wrestling is only on a weekend type gig. The MMA, or I should say the no holds barred competition, that only took place once a quarter.
Yeah, couple times a year. Yep.
Yeah. So again, it was like a big to do, and so it's like, what am I going to do to keep providing for my family? Because every month there's going to be mortgage. Every day I've got a couple kids at this point that they eat all the time, and they're growing and they need clothes and stuff like this. So it's like, and I bought the property originally because I love the sport of amateur wrestling. I wanted to create a amateur wrestling training facility to where I'm teaching classes either at night or doing different types of camps on a weekend. So I continued developing that property, and I was doing classes all along. So, but I might be working a job during the day. As I come back home, I'm running a class at night. And I started becoming the Phantom of the Opera because my kids would see me in the morning because I'm doing the daddy deal. I'm the person that would either be waking them on up, and I'm making them breakfast, and I get them to school. But by the time they got home from school, that would be my first youth class that would be taking place. And my kids were actually part of my different youth classes, but I could not treat them any differently than others because other parents will see that or other kids will see that, and then there'll be a jealousy. So I had to treat my own kids as the same way. And my kids, I'm going off on yet another tangent. My oldest son at the time, he goes, Daddy, when am I going to start receiving an allowance? I go, son, well, explain to me what an allowance is. He goes, some of my friends get money each week because they make their bed or they pick up their dirty clothes. I go, well, son, you live in my house. I said, and you already have to make your bed. I mean, the privilege of living in my house is you make your bed. And if you want clean clothes, you better bring your dirty clothes on down, because Mom or I are not going to head into your room to get your dirty clothes. I said, those are just mandatory. Now, if you want to do something else around doing some yard work, doing some other type of projects with your pops up with it, I've got no problem. Then you'll get allowance. So it's like I made it sure that I wanted to understand what their perspective was, what they thought, and then try to teach them. Because I told my kids, I go, there's no free rides in this world. You have to make your own way at some point in time. There's no country like America for the land of opportunity. But at the same token, there's a lot of kids young people that don't understand about getting a job and going to work and you surviving on your own. You can't look towards mom or dad, but then our mom and dad having kids for the right reasons in the first place, knowing that it's like going, gosh, you eat 3-4 times a day or more. They're just, especially at the beginning, there's just nothing but, I remember with my first child, it's like going, they eat all the time, they crap, and they cry. I'm thinking, man, I go, put it back. It's like, but it's like, then when you first start hearing those first words and you start seeing them crawl and stuff like that, it's something else. So.
Nice. Do you still run your training camps there and stuff?
I still have my facility in that, but during COVID, I had to recreate myself. So I spent more time in states that were still open for business.
Okay.
Yeah, and Michigan was not one of those. So I did close down, and I still have it, and I'm looking at some other opportunities. It will probably be reopened, but I will not really be the person that will be overseeing and running it. It's kind of something I'm looking to try to turn over to my kids, who are now all grown adults, and I have 5 grandkids.
Oh wow! Okay.
And when the 5 grandkids come over and they see that Grandpa is out in his training facility, they look at their mom and dad and they're like, I want to go play with Grandpa out in his barn. Because again, it was a barn, but it was actually a storage facility. Okay, is what it was. But it's 10,000 square feet.
Wow. Storage
facility. So there's a lot of different rooms, and I just opened up room after room as I could afford it. But then also as I got different students. I'd be looking at you, Brian. I go, well, Brian, if you don't mind me asking, what line of work are you in? Oh, you're a carpenter, or you're a mason, or you're a painter. And I'm thinking, well, okay, we could either trade money, or we could just trade skill sets. So I got all kinds of plumbing, or let's go work. I mean, the barter system. There's a lot of people don't even understand what barter even means, but the barter system went well.
Yeah.
To where I had different students that were electricians and plumbers and that, because the trades were still, that was a big thing. There's a movement now for the trades once again, because we have all of these other big databases and that are being built around. You still need electricians, you still need plumbers, you still need all kinds of people that know how to build things. Yeah. So the trades are an incredible arena to go into even today.
And you had it set up so even if you were working with fighters, they could actually live there for their fight camp. There was a place for them to stay, and they'd be there full time while you were training them and stuff, correct?
When you think about the time of what I had, I was so far ahead of even the best company known is the Ultimate Fighting Championships, the UFC. Mm-hmm. I actually had 2 small dormitories. Nice. 9 bunks and 9 bunks, so I could house 18 people. I had a commercial kitchen inside there. One of the first things is I go, Brian, do you know how to cook? And, well, not really there, Dan. I go, okay, here's the burners. I said, here's a fire extinguisher over here. You start learning from some of the other roommates here right now how to cook this, that, because if you burn my place down, I will hunt you down and I will kill you. And again, I go, nothing personal. Mm-hmm. And they're all looking at me because it's like I just threw a whole lot down there at them. And I go, and they started learning how to do things. Nice. And how to, and again, clean your area up. I mean, it's probably the first time I had to yell at. It's like I had more kids. Is all I ended up having. I had, okay, pick up all your dirty laundry. I go to the laundromat at least once a week. The place smells like stinky jock straps and BO is what the place smells like. I go, clean the place up. It's like, because I'm not their mother, but I actually have to tell them what to do. Clean this, clean that. And so they all learned how to clean sinks, how to clean toilets, and things that I didn't think I'd have to be teaching young men of what to do. But I was basically a surrogate parent in a lot of different ways. But then I would bring in my little cafeteria area, because I have a commercial kitchen in there, but then I have a number of tables, and by each bank of tables, I should say by each table, I have a bank of electrical outlets. So there'd be always 4 outlets, because I didn't want just a bunch of dumb jocks. I would bring in my financial planner and talk to them about investments. They heard things from me. It's like, you need to hear from somebody else. And I always tell people I have a couple of different financial planners, because whatever you're telling me, I'm going to check with the other guy. And then whatever he's telling me, I'm going to check with you. Because it's like I played one against the other, because I didn't totally go with just one person 100%. Mm-hmm. I always had different people, because I was like, don't just sell me this because you're going to make a commission off it. I go, sell me because it's the best product that will be for me and the goals of what I want to do. But then I also brought in a nutritionist in that. So again, they're not just hearing from me, they're hearing from an actual nutritionist in that. So I brought in my people to do things, and I was so far ahead of just even the UFC. And there's still stuff that the UFC should be doing that I did do way back when. You got a lot of young men and young women that now they're going to get this windfall of money for one fight. Mm-hmm. Do they know what taxes are? Do they understand that one day you're going to be old and decrepit, and especially if you take too many shots to the head, your cheese might be slipping off his cracker on top of all that. So It's like they might need some medical assistance down the road. But most young people don't think that way.
That is true.
I was kind of an old soul, or at the time, but maybe at the fact that I had already experienced enough of life. Like I said, just the ability to use a sport that you love and know that you traveled to all 50 states, mm-hmm. but then to also be to every country that has ever had a wrestling program, and some that don't exist, but then to see how other people live, even though you can't speak their language, most people are the same. They want to do well, and they want opportunities for their children.
Mm-hmm. So I'm curious. I was looking over your book, your biography, "The Realest Guy in the Room: The Life and Times of Dan Severn." That came out in 2016. So that's 10 years ago. Any chance for a second edition or a second book or something?
The gentleman that actually helped me do that in the first place, it was all just doing interviews. Mm-hmm. So I mean, I've kept a lot of journals over the decades, knowing that there will come a point in time when life will slow down for me. Mm-hmm. I say that knowing that I'm thinking, okay, at 67, it has not slowed down for me yet. It's, if anything, because of social media and that, it has put it into hyperdrive. Now I do more and more appearances and do things, because they're like, dude, you're 67 and yet you're doing this and you're doing that. How are you able to do this? It's like going, well, why don't you just follow along? I go, you'll see, I get up maybe a little bit earlier than what the average person does. Mm-hmm. I work out of a planner. I set goals for myself, knowing that I will never get everything done on my list of to-dos, and then there'll be things that will carry over. But the more things that you keep on doing, you'll be surprised how you will start to attract more people. Well, just like yourself, there, Brian. Yeah. You've never met me before. You've really never had a chance to speak to me before. But it's going, and I know you're learning brand new things that are about me. But it all boils down to you and what is your drive, what is your motivation. You developed your own podcast here, and you want to stand out from other types of podcasts. And it's like, that's what everyone's trying to do. And they're just trying to carve out their little niche in life, and hopefully be able to enjoy what they do. Yeah. And the people that they're going to be around, because these are the same people you're going to see time and time again. When most men basically were working a first, second, or third shift, those are the only people you see. They literally became part of your family, whether you like it or not. You see them every single day, at a minimum of 5 days a week, 8 hours a day, because the standard 40-hour work week was the standard. Well, that has changed. Again, internet-wise and that, there's a lot of things that people could do to where I would say that, well, especially in today's economic times, you better have a base job, but you better have a side hustle going with it, because the cost of food, the cost of gas, the cost of everything is much higher than what it should be.
Yeah, agreed. All right. So over your whole martial arts journey that started in 7th grade with wrestling through UFC, through Sambo, through judo, and everything you've been involved in, is there one philosophy that stands out for you? It's just at the top of your list. You keep coming back to it.
It's the philosophy I live on every day. It's like, knowing that I use the cliche rise and shine. Because a lot of people think, well, that means you're just waking up. No. It means I'm going to get up, but I'm going to try to shine that day. I still live out of that planner. I still have goals of what I want to achieve in life. And these are the things that keep me motivated. It's, just like doing interviews. Yeah. I've got a lot of those. It's kind of like going, how do I orchestrate that through my busy schedule, knowing that I have to give up an hour here or an hour there. And, these are the kind of things that I work in now. I wasn't being interviewed like that way back when, because the opportunities to do that through the internet stuff did not exist.
True.
Like I said, it's even though technologies have improved, and the fact that you can talk to people from around the world through the convenience of your cell phone or through a laptop, it's wonderful opportunities that you have. But I always tell people, one of these days I will figure out what I want to be when I grow up. But in the meantime, I still look at myself as the provider. I still look at that. Okay, I have my goals of what I want to achieve, to where different things kind of self-perpetuate themselves. And again, the fact that I'm try to aspire my kids, and now I have the next generation of grandkids, where it's like I look at my kids, and I also say my kids. Even my youngest one is 27. Okay, but it'd be like, okay, I got 5 grandkids between just 2 that have produced offspring here so far. And it's kind of going, how would you like me to save you about $250,000 in about 18 years from now? It's called a amateur wrestling scholarship, and they're like, Pops, they're all yours. Okay, well. There's things that you can start doing at your own home here right now. And I tell them, just have them start picking up their own toys. Have them start, making their own beds. I go, same things I just did with you, because now you're starting to give them some sort of structure. So you start easy, and then you can't throw it all on them at once. They'll rebel, or they'll break, or they'll say, I don't want to. But everyone, when you start participating in games, and I don't even care if you're playing checkers or chess or tiddlywinks. People are competitive. They want to win. But if you don't study the game a little bit more, or you don't play it enough, you're not going to win. Yeah. I'm saying things that were, had nothing to do with electronics, and making people like, what is this thing called checkers? What is this thing called chess? You mean I actually have to physically grab a piece and move it around on a game board or something like that? I still have all those kinds of things in a closet, and I'll pull out a checkerboard, and I'll try to start teaching, like a grandchild. Okay, this is a game of checkers. That's cool. They're not old enough to start to comprehend the game of chess yet, but that'll be down the road. I like it. Okay. All right. I have a few fun questions we use to wrap up the interview. So let's say you were going to fight today. What would your MMA walk-up music be? Would you use some of the same music you used back when you were competing, or would you pick something new? The coolest music I ever had was when I was working for the WWF. Okay, now known as WWE, and I don't know whoever put that, but I remember waiting behind the curtain because they said that the cue, and then they cued this music is the first time I hear it. I'm thinking, man, that's a pretty badass tune that they're going right now. I go, I don't know who did it. I got to thank somebody for that, because they gave me a really good tune. Okay, and the ironic part of it was that I'm still wearing black trunks. I'm wearing kind of like what looks like a sweaty T-shirt. And, I'm going out there and I'm splashing a little bit of water in my hands, and I'm slapping my face, I'm slapping my arms and my legs. But those are all things I did through my amateur wrestling career, high school, collegiately, and it carried over into even my UFC matches, because, even like when Jim Brown, he's one of the play-by-play color commentators, and because the UFC wanted to have a tough individuals to bring more of an audience, because it's so male-dominant, and football was so huge for male-dominant type audience. Jim Brown's the guy who gave me the ring name, The Beast. Okay. And he just couldn't believe how, he's like, how you transformed there, Dan. He goes, I see you at the weigh-ins, you're like one person. He goes, and then I see you come out there with your game face on, and as I see you climb up at those couple steps to climb at that Octagon cage, he goes, you're like a whole different cat at that point, Dan. But I always tell people that was my game face, and now I'm ready to go to war. It's like if I stepped onto that wrestling mat, that was my game face there too. Nice. I'll shake your hand, but I'll probably never know what you look like, because I'm actually, as I look at you, In amateur wrestling, when I shook hands, I looked at your ears to see what side is more damaged than the other side. Because whatever side is damaged, I know exactly what leg you're going for. Because if your right ear is damaged, it means you're shooting to the left all day long because you have to drive across. But in America, we wear headgear. But international competition, the coach was like going, Severn, he goes, how do you know that what they're about to do? I go, coach, shake their hands before the match. I go, I'm looking at the ear. Which one's more damaged? And I go, they're telling me what they're about to do. And I was shocked that I had to teach that to these coaches. But then some of them, either they never learned it or they had not competed in quite a bit of time, and maybe they might have forgotten it. But I said, as a competitor, look at the ears. And that still is true to this day in international competition. Look at the ears, because professional wrestlers, not professional, but amateur wrestlers, well, even professional wrestlers, they get some cauliflower ears. There's even recently, and this was recently within the last, I'll say month and a half, somebody sent me article where it shows that they're actually producing cauliflower ears for just a novice. If you want to have a cauliflower ear, it will only cost you whatever like this, and because they'll do this and cosmetically. I'm thinking, what? That's the
weird.
Dumbest thing I've ever heard. You're going to go to someone to give you what looks like a cauliflower ear, because what they don't understand is, as you get older, your ears continue to grow. Mm-hmm. On a man, their ears and their nose continues to grow. And you got these Dumbo-looking ears that are all cauliflowered up, and your hair isn't going to be there. It's going to migrate south. You're going to look like some hideous person there that should be in the movie Goonies or something like that.
All right. Who are 3, 4, 5 names you'd put on your personal Mount Rushmore of martial arts?
Well, I mean, I know I've been asked this question a few times. I mean, I would put someone, I would put it like a Don Fry on there, only because, well, first off, I mean, he's got the number one most viewed combat match, and that's Don Fry versus Takayama from Japan in Pride. That's the number one most viewed combat match in sports history, especially the first 45 seconds of how they're just punching the bejeebers out of each other. And so again, any of the people that listen there, just Google it, look it on up. I mean, you'll be shocked at what they do. I mean, I did not actually see that match until maybe a couple weeks after fact. And when I did see it, I was so angry at Don that I called him up, and I'm cussing him out over the phone. That blankety blank. That's not how you're supposed to fight. You're supposed to get in there, get yours, and get out of there. And he's like, he goes. He says, I just got caught up in the whole spirit there. But it's like, I'll just say that's Don Fry.
Okay,
that's all I can say. He's he has just his own way of doing things. So, yep. But he was, but like I said, I was a coach at Arizona State. I lived with a couple of my younger brothers, so I knew Don much like a younger brother. So I always kind of, I'd still touch base with him every few days or so just to check in on him.
Okay, cool.
So again, as for other people put on this Mount Rushmore, I'm happy to see that early on, like we talked about the sport of wrestling, there's a lot of amateur wrestlers that have risen up and have done well. So from the sport perspective, I like the fact that amateur wrestling is getting the recognition that it deserves, because it's a very hard sport. It's a very unforgiving type sport, and it's all based upon you. You can't tag into anybody else, or you can't look to your other 10 players to do your job for you. You have to do your job yourself. But I don't know who else really to throw into the mix right there. But again, I'm doing that because it's the coach in me that's bringing this out.
Yeah. Okay. No, that's fine. All right. Do you have a favorite martial arts book?
No, I never had. It's like, even though the first book, I'll say that I can't even look at it as a martial arts book, but I'll say it's an amateur wrestling book that I ever perused through was the Bobby Douglas put together, one of the very first technical type of amateur wrestling books that there were, where there were sequences of pictures, and I think it was titled Making of a Champion.
Okay.
And so
a lot of people now over the last 20 years, most people consider wrestling is a martial art now. So I would say that qualifies.
Yeah. Well,
okay.
I just remember when he was still putting that book together. I think my freshman and sophomore years at college, because I still remember looking over some of the phototypes, and And I think he actually had different wrestlers that were like going through looking for grammatical errors and things of that nature. We might be in the van heading to whatever, but you're reading over something to simply see if there's any grammatical errors or stuff like that into it. So
okay,
it was again kind of comical to be part of those kinds of things, and that was one of the things that actually brought me out to Arizona, because that's where he's speaking to me from right now. I'm out in Arizona right now, but I was out like last weekend was the memorial for Bobby Douglas. He had just passed away, and the memorial was taking place at Arizona State University, and I was part of that group. And then now I'm at this martial arts event as well.
All right. How about a favorite martial arts TV show?
I think one of the very first martial arts TV shows I ever watched, I think, was Kung Fu.
Yep.
Growing up.
Yeah.
Because you just had, I forget the actor's name, but very, very quiet.
David Carradine.
Yeah, there you go. Perfect. And again, that was probably one of the very first ones. And again, he was never like the aggressor. He was always like the protector and protecting himself. And so that's probably the very first martial arts thing I ever saw there.
All right. How about a favorite martial arts movie?
Now I'm looking at The Cheese Factor, because I'm trying to think of one where their lips are working in one direction, and yet other stuff are coming out to where nothing matches on up. It'd be some comedy, but I can't think of what the movie was. But again, I'm just going so far back. But those are kind of ones that were so cheesy, because I would, even when I started going over to Japan, same type of analogy was taking place. They had all these American movies that they're showing, but it's now all in Japanese terminology. The only channel I could watch that actually understood things is no matter what country I drove to or I was going to be in, they all had CNN. So I knew what was taking place around the world just because they all carried CNN. And that's
that makes sense.
That's the only English program I could ever watch.
Okay. All right. This one doesn't have to be a martial arts movie. Any movie you've seen in your whole life, a favorite movie fight scene. Is there just one good fight scene that stands out?
I'm a big Clint Eastwood fan.
Nice.
He's been in so many different types of fight scenes, but again, I just say I'm a Clint Eastwood fan, and he's been involved in some pretty some comedy type movies, but he always comes out as a Barney badass individual.
Yeah,
and the fact that again, correct me if I'm wrong, but he's still alive, and I think he
still directs.
He's still directing some movies. Yeah. And I think is he in his 90s?
Yeah, he is.
So again, that's where to me, it's like he's a Barney badass in a lot of different categories. In fact, that he's still around. He's got that grisly type of a persona.
Yeah, I think my favorite Clint fight scene is from Heartbreak Ridge, when he's the Marine gunny sergeant, and they bring in that big guy, the Swede. They think he's going to take down Clint, and it's like one punch, he just drops the guy. Yeah. That's awesome.
No, there's classical type of things. Like I said, I've always been a Clint Eastwood fan, so it's like there's quite a few different movies that he's always starred in. Yeah. I think one of the very first Westerns was The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
Yes. Yeah. I like that. All right. So my final question, I know we just had recently that we had the movie The Smashing Machine, which was a great movie about Mark Kerr and stuff like that.
Mark Kerr and Mark Coleman.
When are we going to see the Dan Severn movie? Any possibility of that? Have you been talked to about it?
No, I actually have had a couple of different people that have approached me about it.
Okay.
But I'm like going, well, what segment are you going to go after?
Yeah.
I said, you can't, there's no one movie. I go, my entire life, you'd have to do like a series.
Oh, there we go.
I actually have a gentleman that he does a lot of speaking on my behalf to other people, because first off, I'm preoccupied doing other things, and he knows my background almost better than what I do.
Okay.
But again, former law enforcement, so he's good about investigation and things of that nature. But I always say that just like doing the 17 matches in one day.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be an incredible movie just in one aspect, but then you always wonder, well, what did the young man do before this, or what did he do after this? And so there's like I said, that's just one story in my life.
Yeah. Oh, hey, maybe we'll get a few movies. So if they did a movie or a series or whatever, do you think you'd want an unknown actor to play you, or somebody well known, like with Mark Kerr, they had The Rock? Would you want a big name like that, or would you want an unknown?
I have no idea on that one, because again, this is something that was asked to me before, and I'm like going, it would have to be probably someone a little bit more maybe on the unknown type basis, because this is I think it would be their chance to become known.
True. Very true.
Only if they do a good job, because I look at that, especially if they acknowledge that these are all based upon true things that took place. I think more people, because the internet is so accessible from their own cell phone and that now that they can Google and look up, and I think it would be a little bit more part of conversation, because people will talk about incredible feats.
Yeah.
Especially if someone is still alive, and if you can interact with them, that's where I inspire more people, just for the fact that they see me and they see what I'm doing, just to be down to the gym earlier this morning.
Mm-hmm.
And then a few other people that are in here for this martial arts event, they see in there, they're like, well, you're not resting on your laurels. No, I go, today's a new day. I always use the analogy of the hammer and the anvil. I go, what do you want to be in life? Do you want to be the hammer, or do you want to be the anvil being beat on? So it's like, and I just use that analogy. There's a lot of times that plays through my head there as I hear the mallet striking on down. So even with my younger son, my son David, that I had to relocate him to an entirely different school, mm-hmm. because the coach was not going to allow me to come in to be a part of these practices and allow my son to be a mediocre when he did not want to be mediocre. And so I ended up relocating him to a different school. And again, I cleared all this with my son. I go, so son, I go, if this is what you want to do, I go, you can achieve these goals. Your dad's going to have to be a part of it. And I'll have to find you a program that will allow me to bring in former wrestlers that are now men, because you're going to go up against man strength. And you're going to go up, and again, I got to get 3 or 4 of them, because their cardiovascular is not going to be all that good, because they haven't been training the way that they would. So I'll get 3 or 4 of them to where it's like, they'll put you through a workout. Because I did not want to be the person being, not that I'm being mean to him, mm-hmm. but I'm going to be rubbing his face into reality that, okay, no, I'm going to shut you down here. No, I'm going to it's like, but I brought these men in, and I'll say, okay, my son, he's a sucker for this, or he's a sucker for that. Hit him with this and that. But I go, after you hit him with it, then show him how to counter it.
Nice.
And then my son be like, well, did you know what Brian showed me over here? And I go, no. And I'm like, please tell me. And like, he's excited, stuff like that. And I'm like going, I don't care how he got the answers to his questions. And if it came from the burning bush itself, he at least got his answers, and he's heading in the right direction. And that's where I would say that, that old analogy, you need a community sometime to raise the child.
Yeah, I like it. Well, Dan, this has been absolutely amazing and an honor to have you on the show. You've been on my list for a while, and I'm glad I finally reached out and we made it happen so quickly. Thank you for responding and doing this. And I really think my listeners are going to enjoy this interview.
Well, they should be. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, because I always tell people, you're in charge of your own destiny. Then that's what I say. So if you're going to be around, woe is me this, or woe is me that, I go, no, I'm not buying what you're selling. Get off your ass. Get a planner. Even if it's just go down to your local insurance company. They give away calendars for free. Mm-hmm. Just set your first goal for yourself, whether it's something you want to do for yourself physically, or if you need to do something for yourself financially. I do stuff in both aspects. But then it's like, now I'm trying to incorporate more things with my kids and grandkids. And so it's like, it's the never ending story, which I hope goes until the goal is to live to 125. I don't know why I picked out that one, but I picked out the goal of, let's live to be 125. And I go, even when they finally do find my body killed over, they're going to find my planner. They're like, man, for an old fart, look at all the stuff he still has coming up.
I like it. That is awesome. Well, I know you got to get going. You have other plays, but seriously, I appreciate your time. I appreciate your flexibility in doing this, and I look forward to getting the episode ready to go, and I will be in touch when it's ready.
Yep. Very good. Well, thank you, Brian.
All right. You have a good day, sir.
You too. Bye.
Wrap up today's episode by taking your own training to the next level with Martial Theory by Steve Perlman, the book that's redefining martial arts thinking. Find Martial Theory on Amazon today. Join the worldwide movement at martialtheoryu.com, where you'll find Q&A sessions, live events, and direct guidance from Steve himself. Use code EverydayMA for 20% off for life. That's martialtheoryu.com, code EverydayMA. Thanks for listening to Everyday Martial Artist. We hope you will join us every week for a brand new episode with a different martial artist telling their story. If you enjoy the show, be sure to leave us a review. Also, be sure to check out our website at everydaymartialartist.com. There you can find all of our episodes and contact us to suggest guests and ask questions. Again, thanks for listening to Everyday Martial Artist, and we'll see you next week.